Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Well Versed. I'm your host, Layman. Thank you for joining me for yet another week. This podcast is where we unpack culture, stories, and systems shaping our lives without the fluff. We try to go beyond the headlines and hashtags to get into what's really going on beneath the surface, whether it's relationships, wellness trends, career, culture, current events. This is where nuance lives, where we reflect, question, and occasionally call BS with honesty, a little humor, and a lot of curiosity. So, thank you again for listening to this podcast. I'm so happy you guys can join. Today, we're going to do another solo episode. I am a couple episodes deep into this podcast, which I'm super proud of myself for. And I've noticed lately in life, I've been doing things that require a lot of consistency, like training for a half marathon. So if anyone's interested in that and what I've learned, definitely let me know. But today is a solo episode, and I've gotten some feedback that people actually like my solo episodes. And so it had me thinking about what is the perfect amount of vulnerability and anecdotal experience that I will share with you guys, but also what is the perfect amount of just talking to the things that are going on in the world today and sharing my opinions on them. And so last solo episode, I talked a little bit about embracing cringe, shared some anecdotes from my own life and why it's important for you to embrace the cringe to be successful. And today, I think I just want to get into what's going on in the world this week because there is a lot going on that is very interesting to me and probably very interesting to you. Some of it feels a little dystopian. And so, yeah, we'll get into that. But first, just to give another update on myself, because the last time I did a solo episode, I mentioned that I had time off in between jobs and that I was off work for about 2.5 months, I think almost 3 months now. It's been amazing. I love it. Fun employment is for me. But unfortunately, or fortunately, honestly, unfortunately, I am finally going back to work. And I'm so scared, you guys, because though I'm excited about this new job and this has been long awaited for me to start this role, I fear that being unemployed has been amazing. It's been so nice to just wake up and do the things I want to do, explore in ways I want to explore, live my life how I want to live it day to day. And it truly goes back to the real meaning of why we do the things we do, why we hustle and why we work so hard is because we want the freedom. That's it. We just want the freedom to do what we want to do, to live a life we want to live that is fulfilling to us. And I really got to experience that these past couple of months, and it's coming to an end. So I am going back to work, starting a new job. I haven't been into the office since 2018, which is crazy. I don't even know how I'm going to act anymore. Like, how do people talk to each other? And what is the meaning of small talk? Do I know what that is? I have no idea, but we're going to figure it out. I haven't been into an office, not even in a hybrid capacity since 2018, because 2018, I went back to business school. So this is all really new to me, but we'll figure it out. The other update is it's April. April 2nd was my birthday. I had a lovely and amazing birthday. It was everything and more that I needed. I went to a wellness retreat, not just the wellness retreat where you go and just sit on a beach and relax. This is the type of wellness retreat that included everything from spa days to inner healing to meditation exercises, breath work, different types of yoga, Pilates, intention burning ceremonies, inner child healing. Like, it was such a curated wellness experience. Kind of pricey, but worth it. So if anyone is interested in that, definitely let me know. I can do an episode on that wellness retreat or just on the importance of maybe why you may want to go to a wellness retreat. But overall, it was such an amazing birthday. Shout out to all the Aries and shout out to all the friends, new and old, who really showed up and celebrated me in their own little ways. One thing that this birthday has shown me was, you know, we do expect a lot from our longest standing friends, but a lot of my newer friends really went out of their ways to make me feel special and make me feel loved. And it really showed me who's in my corner and who really comes to show up for you when it's your birthday and when it's the one day of the year that people try to make you feel important. So it's a great birthday. What else is an update on my end? Those are the two major things, actually. So, birthday, starting my new job. I'm also going to Japan. I'm so excited to be in Japan. I'm going to Japan in May. I'm also going to South Korea. So might do an episode on that trip, but that is going to be amazing. I've been wanting to go for so many years, and there's always been something that's come up. So I'm looking forward to experiencing the culture, the food, the skincare in Korea. I can't wait. But yeah, so that's an update on me. So today we're going to just talk about what's going on in the world, current events, current affairs. There is a lot, and all of it kind of ties back together. I was wondering what I wanted to call this episode. I thought about it hard. I was like, what do I call this? Is it going to be power, prestige, and the performance we buy into? Are we going to talk space, status, and the stories we tell ourselves? Or is it going to be billionaires to handbags? What are we chasing? I couldn't come up with a name, but all I knew was that there's so much to talk about today, and a lot of it is kind of connected. Start with something that is making so many headlines right now: space. Specifically, 6 women in matching flight suits boarding a rocket and heading to the edge of the earth. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie a little bit, but let's be real, it's pretty fascinating. The other day, Jeff Bezos' space company Blue Origin launched its first all-female crew into space. Technically, it was a suborbital flight, which means the rocket didn't orbit the earth. Instead, it shot straight up past a certain line, which is the boundary of space, and then came back down. And the whole trip lasted 11 minutes. And honestly, you guys, as a child who was so fascinated with space, a bit of a conspiracy theorist, thinking about life outside of planet Earth, what would the world look like if we started to migrate from Earth to other planets and undiscovered planets? I was kind of fascinated and I was kind of obsessed. Like when they were launching and, the emotions behind it, and even Gail ringing that bell like she was getting ready to serve her 40-year prison sentence. All of it was fascinating to me, but most of all, it was fascinating to me as a young kid because we literally are going to space in 11 minutes. I can't even make my breakfast in 11 minutes if I tried. And so here's the thing. And I want to be honest about this part. I was obsessed. I was very into it. Like truly the fact that we send people to the edge of space and bring them back is fascinating. It's incredible. The science and technology, the sheer feat of it, it's amazing. And again, we're living in a time where space travel is no longer reserved for trained astronauts in bulky suits going all the way up to space. The doors are now kind of open to everyday people, even so slightly. And so to see this all-female crew at the center of that, it kind of felt cool. But as I was starting to see all the comments online, because I stay with one ear to the streets and one ear on social media, and seeing all the comments and the reactions from people was so stark from even the slight bit of infatuation and excitedness I had for this. And it kind of kicked in for me as well, to be honest with you, where I was like, okay, that part that's grounded in the reality that we're all living through is also playing a part in why people are not responding that well. Because as I kind of sat with it and I thought about it, I'm like, okay, this feels a little bit more complicated because it was kind of sold to us as if it was progressive when really it was, dare I say, one big PR stunt. So some things that we have to keep in mind, guys. Like, let's be clear, this wasn't a NASA mission. There is no research conducted. I know they tried to say that, every time you go into space, you learn something, but there was literally no research conducted or no meaningful data collected or nothing to really just like advance human understanding. It was kind of a luxury ride wrapped in empowerment language, a marketing campaign on a rocket. And I think what also added insult to injury for a lot of people is that the passengers weren't astronauts, though they were like carefully selected figures. Some were like trailblazers in their field, I guess, but also influencers or philanthropists, celebrities. It was basically like a curated, camera ready crew. And all of that was obviously by design. So I get why people were so pissed off. And I get why this launch felt really hollow to so many people, because it didn't feel like a scientific leap forward. It kind of felt like one of the biggest flexes that we've seen in a very long time. And for so many people, one of the biggest arguments was this type of flex hits differently when you remember the state of the world that we're in right now. Millions of people are literally struggling to buy groceries. Women's, mothers, caretakers, professionals, many people are underpaid and burnt out. People are literally putting off important medical work or dental work, skipping on their prescriptions that they need to survive because they can't afford copays. The middle class is shrinking, the wealth gap is widening, mental health is fragile. Like, it's pretty bad. And then in the midst of all of this, here comes a spaceship not filled with, astronauts who've been doing this for years and years, not sent to solve anything, just to fly to the edge of the earth staying there for 11 minutes and coming back down. So I kind of get why people are pissed off. I mean, I'd be pissed off too. Obviously, like I said before I read those comments and really saw how people felt about it, I was excited. For me, again, just the sheer fact that we can go to the edge of the earth in 11 minutes is fascinating. But at the same time, I understand where people are coming from and why they're so upset. But the truth is this element of wealth, though the wealth gap is widening and people are struggling more and more every day, there's always been the wealthy and there's always been the non-wealthy, and wealthy people have the shiny tools and the shiny cars and the shiny things, and they use their money as an element to freedom and access and to invest in the shiny things that are important to them. And it's always been like that from the dawn of time, right? It's always been like that from the dawn of time. So what makes it a little bit more trickier now is that all of us can see it. Like you used to read about billionaires in the newspaper. Now we watch them in real time on TikTok, the private jets, in the expensive vacations, or people buying islands, or, $100,000 bags that people literally make as a salary, And then now it's like space flights. There's no more mystery to the wealth. And so when people are constantly seeing that in a world where social media is so present in our lives, regardless of where you stand on the wealth meter, it's just a lot of unfiltered exposure. So the more we see how billionaires live, the more we feel the distance between our reality and theirs. And then the more people think they use their money to stage photo ops in the name of progress, it just becomes a little offensive. I'm still in the very middle of this, and I understand both sides, because though this was under the gaze of female empowerment, and I think they said like the last all-female crew was in 1963, I kind of don't think that. I do kind of think that that was what was used to kind of make this look a little bit better. Let's be real. It's what was used to make it look better. But I still believe it doesn't take away the fact that for a lot of people when they're younger, seeing people who look like them makes them feel like they could do it too. Like, it was an all women's crew. That's great. It was also women of color. There was an Asian woman, there was a black woman. And for little girls out there who one day want to be astronauts or one day want to get into aerospace engineering, research, and are fascinated by this space, sometimes just seeing someone you look up to makes you feel like you can do it and is something that holds people all the way through as they pursue those dreams. So in some ways, we do know what's behind this mission and why they went. I don't even know if we can call it a mission, but we do know what was behind it and why they went and how it was kind of hidden behind this whole female empowerment. But we also have to say that, like, regardless of what was the reason they went up, the fact that we've seen different types of women go up makes people feel like it's a bit more achievable. So there's two sides to it. And I think that that's what really upsets people. Going back to that is that they're using this female empowerment, all women's group as like a symbolism to repurpose empowerment for headlines and to kind of reduce centuries of inequality to a moment of like floating in space. And we've seen this all the time. Like sometimes it even happens in the corporate environments where, maybe you're invited to a panel and it's like women in leadership and why women in leadership is important. And they're like, hey, come speak. And you're like, great. And then wait, this company literally has no women on their board. Why are we pretending? But you're kind of the face of this inclusionary experience that they're trying to project. That's why this Blue Origin launch kind of reminded a lot of people of that, because sometimes being included is just another way of being used and just being plastered from a PR perspective, but what is actually happening on the ground. So yeah, it makes us ask a lot of questions too. And when you see these first and when we're sold these like high production moments of representation, who is it really for? Like who is it benefiting? Who's profiting from the press release and who's behind it? Literally, you guys, the reason I'm stuck so in the middle on this is because, again, I've always had a fascination with space and one day seeing how this earth develops and what we plan to do. And are we always going to live on this planet, or are we going to have people move to other planets and like what that can look like? And I always thought that one day we'd live in a world where humans are maybe living on other planets and maybe we're traveling between planets. That was like my child fantasies. I'm stuck in the middle because, again, elements of this crew and what they did were exciting to me, but I also see how it was so tone deaf for so many people. But I'm not going to lie. If Jeff Bezos is listening, which he's not, but if he was and he invited me to go on Blue Origin, I'm probably going to go. I won't be plastering my face on a camera to take photos, but for the couple of minutes that I'm up there, I'm literally going to be staring down at the earth and looking at everything around. I'm going to be like, where are the aliens? Obviously, there won't be, but I'm going to take him up on his offer. Okay. Let's be real. I'm going to. So obviously, like I did a little research. Come to find out, you can go on Blue Origin for $150,000. I was kind of shocked and I couldn't believe it. Yeah, $150,000 will get you a seat with Blue Origin to go up to space. And it just had me thinking, this is why people unfortunately are mad. People cannot even buy eggs right now. People are struggling. They have no money and the rich are getting richer. It's like, what did you do this weekend? Well, I just took the kids up to space. Really nice for you. It's awkward. It's tough. It's dystopian, honestly, a little bit. I have to admit it. So I'm not anti-aspiration. I'm not saying we shouldn't dream big or admire space travel. I love all things space travel, and I love the work of many people in the industry who are working tirelessly to research, to understand, and are working towards making this Earth a better place and have been passionate about this field for many, many years. But we don't want to confuse being chosen with being empowered. And let's not confuse a flight to space with freedom here on Earth. And let's definitely not confuse marketing with meaning, because this performance of power doesn't just exist in space, it also shows up in everyday things as well. Which brings me to another thing that's happening recently, which is these tariffs. And you're probably wondering, what do tariffs have to do with space? I'll tell you what they have to do with everything going on with Blue Origin in space. So while we're discussing or really examining the performative aspect of empowerment, but really speaking to status and power, on one end, there's another conversation that's been happening on social media recently about luxury and the world of luxury and what's kind of going on right now with the global economic front. As some of you guys may know, US and China trade tensions have escalated dramatically, revealing not just political strategies, but also underlying narratives we as consumers are basically kind of buying into. And so with these trade tensions and, the US administration wanting to impose tariffs on every single country, which, by the way, guys, as a Canadian living and working in the US, I feel like my parents are fighting. I feel like my parents who have loved each other for 30 years, who've never had a single issue, the marriage has been full of love, excitement, are now all of a sudden telling me, we hate each other, we're getting a divorce, and your father's the worst person I've ever known. That's how it feels, because our two countries have been so closely tied and aligned for so many years, but this is the new administration and their policy and what they're trying to develop. And part of that is imposing steep tariffs on many countries, including China. So basically, Chinese imports could potentially reach up to 145%, which is crazy. And this aggressive stance is basically aimed to pressure China into trade negotiations and by leveraging, economic isolation strategies. And honestly, on the topic of luxury again, in retaliation, China has kind of responded in the most fuck you attitude that they could. They've decided to set their own tariffs, further intensifying this sort of trade war. And these moves are not just about economics, they're also signaling power, control, and dominance, basically on a world stage. So the irony of what's been happening this week is this hasn't been impacting luxury and consumer goods. And what does this mean for the average person? Maybe the average person isn't buying luxury, but many luxury items often perceived as quote unquote status symbols for the wealthy, with status symbols of Western craftsmanship, are actually produced and assembled in China. And these Chinese manufacturers are putting it all on blast. Literally, with the new tariffs, the cost of these goods is likely to rise, challenging the perception of luxury that, has been purely Western made. And this revelation is forcing everyone to confront the reality of why are we allured by certain brands and deeply intertwined with these narratives we've been sold? these narratives that may not really uphold under scrutiny. And so basically, China's kind of said, a lot of these Chinese manufacturers are like, oh, you like luxury goods? Well, let me tell you how much the Chanel and the Hermes and the Prada and all of these things you're paying for, let me tell you how much they actually cost to make. Let me also counteract your stereotypes about Chinese goods. The stereotype has always been, Chinese goods are so cheaply made when, to be honest with you, cheaply made products are just cheaply made products and they can be made cheap anywhere, not just in China. It can be in Europe, it could be in parts of Africa. Anywhere there's any sort of manufacturing business, there is a potential for cheaply made products to be made based on cheap materials. So it's ironic now that you see on TikTok, all these manufacturers are like, hey, in addition to the fact that there's stereotypes about Chinese products being cheap, let us tell you how every single brand you love is made in China and sent to Europe and then packaged with a little stamp and stitched with a little logo that makes it made in Europe. And then they inflate the price and you're paying thousands and thousands of dollars on this bag that was originally maybe like $100 to make. From some of you, pretty surprising. From others, not so much. But it's definitely kind of shook the internet a little bit, and people have kind of gone crazy because it makes you reflect more deeply on how much your identity is actually tied to products that we consume, especially in this era of like wealth and status are increasingly visible through social media, and the pressure to own certain items is kind of like a marker of success. And this is intensified. The tariffs, while political in nature, peel back layers of consumer culture, exposing the performative aspects of prestige that we have in the stories we kind of tell ourselves about value and worth. And honestly, as we navigate these complex intersections of like politics and economics and personal identity, it's crucial to remain aware of the narratives at play and the question and authenticity of these symbols we chase. And many of us don't even know why we're chasing them. Like many of us purchase these things not because we have an eye for style, not because we care about fashion, not because we genuinely like them and have a taste and an interest in them. Many people purchase these luxury items just because it's a status symbol. And when you think about it, it's kind of sad. And I don't know if this is late stage capitalism, but I love that people are more and more reflecting on why they purchase the things that they do and why they have them, right? I mean, for myself, I think the biggest driver for me to buy or purchase something is how it looks. Like, does it look good on me? Is it stylistically make sense for me? And then what is the quality level? Like, are you purchasing clothes that are made out of plastic, or are you purchasing clothes that are made out of real, organic, natural fibers, cotton, wool, real leather? And a lot of people for the longest time didn't shop in that way. They just want to get this designer stuff to look cool for other people and impress people they don't even care about. And now finding out that for some people that, the stuff is like $100 to make and you're paying $4,000 for it. And also people being so shocked that it's made in China is kind of like, what does that change about anything? The Chinese are importers of numerous goods. I think the number is like 20% into the US. So that's no surprise there. So I think if anything, a lot of the, harsh reactions to this and the polarizing reactions to this are the fact that the idea of what people think they're buying and what they think it and how they think it makes them look is actually not that. These in some ways kind of a tie into space a little bit too. They both kind of reflect a culture obsessed over image instead of integrity in some ways. Not completely, but in some ways. Like we live in a time where what something looks like matters more than what it is. Feminist movement in space, cool until you realize it's 11 minutes and mostly PR and there's no research that came out of it and that celebrities were selected to go. Or a $3,000 handbag, chic until you find out it was made in the same factory as a $60 dupe. And I think the tie in here is the same system that sells us empowerment also sells us status, packaged and polished and deeply disconnected from reality. And I think in both cases, people are waking up because they see through a lot of this, quote unquote corporate led feminism. People are questioning the real value of luxury. And so I think we're just reaching a cultural boiling point in many levels and many layers where the gap between reality and the performance is too wide to kind of ignore. So those are some interesting ties today between Blue Origin and tariffs affecting luxury goods, but also everyday goods coming in from China. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's probably all over the place, but that's what a solo episode is. If you aren't already, make sure to follow this podcast on Spotify, Apple, and yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.